The autumn wind whispered through the cracked windows of our old family home in upstate New York, carrying the sharp scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke that always signaled the end of summer. I remember that day vividly, the way the air felt crisp against my skin, cool enough to raise goosebumps but not yet biting with winter's promise. The house itself, a rambling Victorian with peeling white paint and creaking wooden floors, smelled of aged oak and faint lavender from the sachets my grandmother tucked into every drawer. Inside, the living room was dimly lit by the afternoon sun filtering through lace curtains, casting long shadows that danced like uneasy spirits across the threadbare oriental rug. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread as I sat on the edge of the worn velvet sofa, its fabric soft and slightly dusty under my fingers, feeling the weight of family history pressing down on me. My name is Emily Harper, and at 35, I thought I knew my family inside out. But as I looked around at my siblings gathered there that afternoon, I realized how fragile those bonds could be. There was my older brother, Jack, 40 years old and always the protector, his broad shoulders tense under his flannel shirt, the faint aroma of his aftershave mingling with the room's musty air. He paced slowly by the fireplace, where embers from a dying fire popped softly, releasing tiny bursts of warmth that did little to chase away the chill. Next to me sat my younger sister, Sarah, 32, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, nails digging into her palms as she stared at the floor. The light caught the tears welling in her eyes, and I could feel her body trembling slightly, the emotion radiating off her like heat from a stove. And then there was our baby brother, Tommy, just 28, lounging in the armchair with feigned nonchalance, but his foot tapped rhythmically against the floor, betraying his anxiety. The room felt heavy with unspoken words, the silence broken only by the distant tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, each second echoing like a heartbeat. Our grandmother, Eleanor Harper, had passed away 2 weeks earlier, her death a quiet slip into the night after a long battle with illness. I could still smell the sterile hospital room where we'd said our goodbyes, the antiseptic tang mixed with the faint floral perfume she always wore. She'd been the matriarch, the glue holding us together through our parents' divorce when we were kids, raising us in this very house with stories of our ancestors and endless batches of warm apple pie that filled the kitchen with cinnamon and buttery sweetness. Now, we were here for the reading of her will, summoned by her lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, a stooped man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses and a voice as dry as autumn leaves crunching underfoot. He cleared his throat, the sound raspy and intrusive in the quiet room, and unfolded the document with hands that trembled slightly from age. The paper rustled softly, like whispers of secrets long buried. "Your grandmother was very specific in her wishes," he began, his tone measured and professional, but I detected a hint of unease in the way his eyes darted around the room. "She wanted me to read this in your presence, without preamble." As he spoke, the words washed over us like a cold wave crashing on a rocky shore. The bulk of her estate, the house, the savings accumulated over decades from her late husband's insurance business, even the antique jewelry collection that gleamed with memories, was to be divided unevenly. Jack, the eldest, got the lion's share, the house itself and half the liquid assets. Sarah and I were to split a smaller portion, enough to pay off debts but little more. And Tommy? He got almost nothing, a token sum of $5,000 and a few personal items. The room grew colder, the air thickening with shock and betrayal, as if the very walls absorbed our rising emotions. Jack's pacing stopped abruptly, his boots thudding heavily on the floor. "This can't be right," he muttered, his voice low and gravelly, laced with disbelief. The fire's faint crackle seemed louder now, mirroring the crack in our family's foundation. Sarah's breath hitched, a soft sob escaping her lips, warm tears trailing down her cheeks that I could almost feel the saltiness of if I reached out. Tommy leaned forward, his face flushing hot with anger, the armchair creaking under his shift. "Gran wouldn't do this. She loved us all the same. This has to be a mistake." Mr. Hargrove adjusted his glasses, the metal frames clicking softly. "I'm afraid it's authentic. She revised it 6 months ago, in my office. Witnesses signed it." But even as he said it, his voice wavered, and I caught a whiff of his cologne, sharp and citrusy, as if trying to mask his discomfort. That night, after the lawyer left, the house felt alive with tension. We gathered in the kitchen, where the fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow that made everyone's faces look pale and drawn. The smell of brewing coffee filled the air, bitter and grounding, steam rising like ghosts from our mugs. I touched the warm ceramic, feeling its smoothness against my palms, trying to anchor myself. What the hell was she thinking? Tommy exploded, slamming his fist on the oak table, the impact vibrating through the wood and into my bones. His voice echoed off the tiled walls, raw with hurt. Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her skin soft and damp. Maybe she was sick, not thinking straight. Remember how the meds made her foggy? The air in her room always smelled like pills and stale tea. Jack shook his head, his jaw tight, muscles clenching visibly. No, Gran was sharp till the end. This feels deliberate. His words hung in the air, heavy as the humid night pressing against the windows. Little did we know, this was just the beginning. Over the next weeks, cracks widened into chasms. Jack moved into the house immediately, claiming it as his to protect the family legacy, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls like accusations. The scent of fresh paint soon overpowered the familiar lavender as he began renovations, erasing bits of our shared past. Sarah and I met in coffee shops, the aroma of espresso and pastries a temporary comfort, our whispers urgent and filled with resentment. "He's acting like he owns us now," she'd say, her voice trembling, fingers tracing the rim of her cup, the porcelain cool and slick. Tommy, feeling the deepest sting, distanced himself, his calls growing sparse, the phones ring a lonely sound in my quiet apartment. When we did speak, his bitterness seeped through, sharp as vinegar. Why me? What did I do to deserve scraps? But whispers of doubt crept in. One rainy evening, as thunder rumbled outside like distant drums and rain pattered against the roof in a soothing rhythm, I found an old letter in Gran's attic. The space was dusty, cobwebs brushing my face like ghostly fingers, the air thick with mothballs and forgotten memories. The letter, yellowed and crisp, smelled of aged paper and ink. It hinted at secrets, something about a family rift long ago, a forgery to right wrongs. My heart raced, the chill of the attic seeping into my skin, as I realized not everything was what it seemed. Weeks turned into months, and the family gatherings that once filled the house with laughter and the sizzle of bacon on Sunday mornings became battlegrounds. At Thanksgiving, the turkey's savory aroma clashed with the tension, the clink of silverware against plates punctuating heated arguments. Jack defended the will, his voice booming, face reddened with frustration. She trusted me to handle things. You all know I'm the responsible one. Sarah shot back, her words sharp as knives, tears streaming hot down her face. Responsible? You're hoarding it all. Gran would be ashamed. The room felt suffocating, the warmth from the oven doing nothing to thaw the icy stairs. Tommy, nursing a beer that fizzed softly, muttered, "Maybe it's not even real." I've heard stories of old folks being tricked. His suspicion planted seeds that grew wild. I tried to mediate, my voice soft amid the storm, feeling the fabric of my sweater itch against my sweating skin. But inside, doubts festered. I began digging, visiting Mr. Hargrove's office on a foggy morning, the air damp and heavy with the scent of wet earth. His desk was cluttered with papers rustling in the draft from an open window, and his hesitation was palpable, his hands fidgeting with a pen that clicked annoyingly. Was there anything unusual about the revision? I asked, leaning forward, the leather chair creaking under me. He sighed, the sound weary, and averted his eyes. Your grandmother was insistent. But she seemed agitated that day, pacing, her perfume stronger than usual, like she was hiding nerves. That fueled my quest. I pored over old family documents in the basement, the dim bulb overhead flickering, casting eerie shadows. The air was cool and musty, filled with the scent of mildew and old books. There, amid boxes that crunched under my knees, I found discrepancies, signatures that didn't quite match, the ink slightly different in hue under the light. Confronting Jack one stormy night, rain lashing the windows like angry whips, thunder booming overhead, I felt the electricity in the air mirroring our tension. The living room lamp glowed warmly, but it couldn't dispel the cold knot in my stomach. I think the will's forged, I said, voice steady despite my pounding heart. He laughed bitterly, the sound harsh, his breath warm on my face as he stepped closer. You're paranoid, Em. Gran wanted this. But Sarah, overhearing from the doorway, her slippers scuffing softly on the floor, joined in. Let's get it tested. If it's real, no harm done. Her eyes pleaded, glistening with hope. Tommy arrived later, drenched from the rain, water dripping from his coat onto the floor with plop sounds, bringing the fresh scent of ozone. I'm in. Something's off. The investigation tore us further apart before it could heal. Experts examined the document under bright lights in a sterile lab that smelled of chemicals and paper, their voices murmuring like conspirators. The results came on a sunny day that belied the storm inside. The will was indeed forged. Gran's signature was a fake, meticulously crafted but not hers. Shock rippled through us like a pebble in a pond. Who? Why? Jack denied involvement vehemently, his face paling, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool room. I'd never, she was everything to me. Sarah suspected Tommy, her accusation hanging heavy during a heated call, the phone line crackling with static. You were always the wild one, needing money for your schemes. He fired back, hurt lacing his words. How dare you? I loved her too. I felt adrift, the weight of betrayal crushing my chest, making each breath labored. Nights were sleepless, the city's distant hum outside my window a mocking lullaby, sheets tangled around my legs, damp with sweat. Deeper digging revealed Gran's journals, hidden in a secret compartment in her dresser. The wood was smooth and cool under my fingers as I pried it open, the faint creak echoing in the quiet bedroom still scented with her lavender. Pages filled with her elegant script, smelling faintly of rosewater, unveiled the painful truth. Decades ago, our grandfather had an affair, fathering a child outside the marriage, a half-sibling we never knew. Gran discovered it late in life, the knowledge a bitter pill that soured her final years. She forged the will not out of malice, but to force us to confront the family's hidden fractures, believing conflict would unearth the secret and unite us against the real pain. But her plan backfired initially. Revelations led to more accusations. Jack confessed he'd suspected something but stayed silent, fearing the fallout, his voice breaking in the dim kitchen light, coffee gone cold in our mugs. Sarah admitted jealousy had blinded her, hugging me tightly, her embrace warm and tear-soaked, the fabric of her shirt soft against my cheek. Tommy revealed his own struggles with addiction, hidden from us, his hands shaking as he spoke, the room filled with the scent of fresh-baked cookies I'd made to soften the blow. As winter set in, snow blanketing the ground in a soft hush, muffling sounds and chilling the air with crisp purity, we gathered again. The fire roared, crackling merrily, warming our faces and thawing hearts. We sought the half-sibling, a woman named Clara living in California, her voice on the phone warm like sunshine, carrying hints of our shared blood. Meeting her was surreal, a cafe buzzing with chatter, the aroma of coffee and pastries enveloping us. She had Gran's eyes, sparkling with emotion, her hug firm and scented with vanilla. In the end, we rewrote the will together, dividing everything equally, including Clara. The house became a shared retreat, filled once more with laughter, the scent of home-cooked meals, and the warmth of forgiveness. Not everything is what it seems, I learned. Gran's forgery was her last act of love, twisted but true, tearing us apart to stitch us stronger. As spring bloomed, flowers scenting the air with sweet promise, our family emerged whole, the bonds deeper for the breaks. The revelation about Clara hit us like a fresh gust of wind on a stagnant summer day, clearing away the fog of resentment that had clouded our family for months. I remember the drive back from the airport after picking her up, the car's heater humming softly against the early December chill, the scent of pine from the air freshener mixing with her subtle vanilla perfume. Clara sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded neatly in her lap, fingers twisting a silver ring that caught the dashboard lights. She was 42, with laugh lines around her eyes that spoke of a life lived fully, and her voice had a gentle lilt, reminiscent of grand storytelling cadence. Tell me about her, Clara said softly, as the tires crunched over gravel leading to the house. The night was dark, stars pinpricking the sky, the air outside crisp and carrying the faint smokiness of neighborhood fireplaces. I glanced at her, feeling a warmth spread through my chest despite the cool leather seat beneath me. Gran was fierce, you know? She'd bake these enormous apple pies, the kitchen filling with cinnamon so thick you could taste it in the air. But she had secrets, layers like an onion that made your eyes water when peeled. Clara chuckled, a light sound that eased the tension. I wish I'd known her. My mom never spoke much about, well, your grandfather. Back at the house, the others waited. Jack had lit a fire, the flames dancing and popping, casting a golden glow that made the room feel alive again. The smell of mulled wine simmered on the stove, cloves and oranges infusing the air with holiday warmth. Sarah hugged Clara first, her embrace tight, tears dampening Clara's shoulder. "Welcome home," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Tommy hung back, his foot tapping nervously, but when Clara extended her hand, he pulled her into a bear hug, his laughter rumbling deep. "You're one of us now. No escaping." That night, we shared stories around the dining table, the wood polished and smooth under our elbows, candles flickering with soft light and the scent of beeswax. Laughter mingled with tears, the clink of glasses toasting to new beginnings. But beneath it all lingered the shadow of Gran's deception. Why forge the will? Why not tell us outright? I found more clues in her journals over the following days. Snow fell softly outside, blanketing the world in silence, the attic window frosted with intricate patterns that chilled the glass to my touch. The journals detailed her discovery, a letter from grandfather's lover, hidden in his desk after his death 30 years ago. The paper was brittle now, ink faded, but the words burned, confessions of love, a child born in secrecy. Gran's entries were raw, her handwriting shaky in places, describing nights of insomnia where the bed felt too empty, the sheets cool and uninviting, her heart aching with betrayal. She wrote of her plan: they must fight to find the truth, or they'll never value the family they have. It was misguided love, twisted by pain, but as I read, tears blurring the pages, I felt her presence, her floral scent almost lingering in the air. Confronting this with the family led to deeper healing. One evening, as a blizzard howled outside, winds whistling through the eaves like mournful ghosts, we huddled by the fire. The heat warmed our faces, popping logs sending sparks flying. Jack admitted his own secrets. He'd been struggling with debt, hiding it from us, his voice cracking as he spoke, hands clenched around a mug of hot cocoa that steamed sweetly. "I thought the inheritance would fix it," he said, eyes downcast, the firelight reflecting shame. Sarah confessed her envy, how she'd always felt overshadowed, her words tumbling out in a rush, breath warm against the chilly room. Tommy shared his recovery journey, the support group smelling of stale coffee and hope, his pride evident in his steady gaze. Clara listened, her presence a bridge, sharing her own story of growing up without a father, the questions that haunted her like shadows in a dimly lit room. "This explains so much," she said, voice soft, touching each of our hands in turn, her skin warm and reassuring. As Christmas approached, the house transformed. We decorated together, the scent of fresh pine from the tree filling every corner, lights twinkling like captured stars. Laughter echoed as we hung ornaments, each one a memory, the glass ball Gran painted with our names, cool and fragile in my palm. But twists lingered. A letter arrived from Mr. Hargrove, the envelope crisp, stamped with his firm seal. Inside, a confession. Gran had coerced him into helping with the forgery, threatening to expose an old mistake of his. His handwriting was neat but apologetic, the paper smooth. She believed it was for the greater good. This sparked anger anew. Tommy paced, boots thudding, the room's warmth turning stifling. She manipulated everyone. But Clara calmed us, her voice steady like an anchor in rough seas. She was human, flawed. Let's honor her by moving forward. We did. New Year's Eve brought resolution. Fireworks boomed outside, colors imagined through bursts of sound and the acrid smell of gunpowder wafting in. We toasted to unity, glasses clinking, wine tart on our tongues. Months later, spring thawed the ground, mud squelching underfoot, flowers blooming with sweet fragrances. The family grew closer, vacations planned, the beach's salt air and crashing waves a backdrop to rebuild bonds. Yet, one final secret emerged. In Grand's safe, hidden behind a painting that depicted our family in happier times, the canvas textured under my fingers, I found the real will. It divided everything equally, including to Clara, whom she'd known about all along. The forgery was a test, one we passed by finding compassion. As I shared this, tears flowed freely, the room filled with hugs, the air thick with love. Grand's legacy wasn't division, but unbreakable ties.